Hello and welcome to the Town Head Podcast. It's season 3, episode 22. And look, it's a clinical Dundalk. See out the city at the Cross Galley to go through this with us. How are you, pal?
So I just grabbed him a cup of water. I wasn't expecting to come in so fast.
I didn't have that much of an intro.
I'm getting them out nice and lubricated for tonight for this post-match chat. Yeah, look, brilliant. I mean, it's what we asked for over the last, even the 2 or 3 podcasts ago, 1 week ago. We'd asked to go into this little international break, this 2-week window with, you would have took 4 points, but I mean, we've come out with maximum points, and I think we've been value for us. I think. Yeah, look, we'll break down the game in a couple of minutes, but yeah, I think, look, we've given, if we look at the game, even from the start, we do tend to, more often than not, I'd like to see the stats on, but we do tend to concede in the first half of a lot of games. But the fact that we've hung in there, and, we'll go through it, not minute by minute, but blow by blow, maybe, overall, we've earned it. Tonight's, we wanted it in the Cork tonight. We wanted to have a performance that we could take back and say, right, we haven't, I got a text off a mate of mine, Mick O'Shea. I hope he's watching because he's on the transplant team and he's a big Cork fan. And I'd say he's absolutely sick because he's watched this for the second time that the dog have, as he says, robbed it in the end. But I don't think we have. I think we've earned it. I think we were a better team overall. We're not miles better, but for us as a performance from the last couple of weeks, everything seemed to improve. We're still nowhere near the best that we can be, but definitely an improved performance right across the board. Quicker to the ball, wanted a little bit more, faster moving forward, really good at the back, albeit, look, we've conceded a goal it is a trademark on at this season at the minute. But yeah, overall, you got to be delighted with it. 6 points, 2-week break now, and, European draw are coming up in a couple of weeks. So yeah, delighted.
Yeah, I think that's the main thing. Like, and there's been hang on, hold everything. Hang on a second. It would have to be an international break coming up when the man himself comes back. Pingu, how are you, pal?
How's it going, lads? What's happening?
We figured you'd come back as soon as Pat Hoogans, equals records and stuff, and everything's going well for you. Show your face back.
Unbeaten in episodes that have been on this season.
You're picking and choosing after the victories, though, so it's not fair. Pingu, I don't know much of the game you got to see tonight, but if you did, what do you think of the performance?
I apologise in advance. I've got bronchitis and ain't nobody got time for that. But if I start coughing, that's why. No, I mean, it's probably the most one-sided 2-1 win we're going to get all season, isn't it? The second half, I think we were all over them for the most part, but it's kind of the story of our season, isn't it? We're just struggling to kind of see it out. I think there's games we've lost this season where we've been very comfortable. And then looking at tonight, we were comfortable for large spells and just couldn't seem to put them away. And it was they didn't really look like scoring in the second half either. But not taken away from it. I mean, look, it's a win, isn't it? And it adds a bit of it puts us into the 2-week break now on a little bit of a high. And good to see the second choice striker John Martin popping up with the winner. But no, it's great.
He's making a Dundalk career of doing that, though, isn't he?
He is, yeah. It's one of them where he does it, and we all call for him to start, and then he starts and he doesn't score. So maybe he's our Ole Gunner. But no, look, it's a great. It's always nice to beat Cork, isn't it?
Definitely.
Always nice to beat Cork.
That's what we were saying last week. That even though, they've been relegated and come back, that wee rivalry from it's still there. It's not rivalry. It's just they're still a massive club. Cork are a huge club, and it's a big venue to go to Turner's Cross. It's a long spitting down for fans, and yeah, it's great to come back up that road. Because we went down obviously earlier in the season and had an absolute, probably one of our worst performances of the season. And that says something. But yeah, I think Pingu's right. It's great to go down and get one over on them, and because we've done it a couple of weeks ago in Oriel Park as well. Look, it's late, but I mean, overall, like what we had said the last couple of weeks was results are great, but you want that performance to come with the result as well. I think we got that tonight, not at our best, but definitely an overall improved performance, I think, from everybody, and just the way they played and moved the ball. I think, yeah.
Pingu, like we only said a few weeks ago that when we start to get some players back from injury and back fully fit, the problem with some of the new signs is that, the older heads probably come straight back into the squad. Is it any surprise that we have an unchanged squad tonight going into this game, and we're starting to get a little bit of consistency out of this team too over the past 2 fixtures.
Yeah, no, I think that's definitely the case. I mean, there was a couple of passages tonight where obviously the friend of the show, Greg Sloggett, has missed large chunks of when we've had our dip, and he's came back in, and there's always the talk. I don't know how long it's been since the episode started. 8 minutes. I'll make the first Chris Shields reference, but there was. Everyone was always talking about who's going to replace him, and I'm not saying that Greg Sloggett's a replacement of him, but Greg Sloggett's pretty irreplaceable in the midfield, and he's proven that over the last couple of seasons. And I think when he came in today, as I said, there was a couple of nice passages of play where Sloggett got on the ball. He's making things happen. The way he tracks back, he just seems to be involved both sides of the game. Both in attack and defending. I think having Louis Ainsley is massive. I think having him back in, and I think we probably didn't see enough. Not that we didn't see enough of him. Probably he got injured very, very early on, so it was probably too early at that point to tell how big of an impact he has on the team. But it looks like over the last 2 games, I think we said it Monday night against UCD. I know I wasn't on, but I was chatting to Donald, and I was saying about how good he looked. And tonight was obviously a little bit of a tougher test, and I think he came through it as well. And Boiler looks a little bit more comfortable with Ainsley beside him as well, and the back four just looked a little bit better. And the man at the moment, then you talk about Hubin as well. I know he's obviously been playing lately, but he's not been surrounded by the starting 11. But I think we said it last year when Skip came in, like it's the role that he's playing is totally different to the Pat Hubin of 4 or 5 years ago, or even 3 years ago. There were so many times today where he was the deeper of the 2 forward players, and to me, I think that actually is bringing out a better side of his game. Away from the goal scoring, I feel like he's more involved, and not to harp on about what we were talking about 2-3 years ago, or what I was talking about 2-3 years ago, where he didn't seem to be involved, and maybe that was because of the role he was playing at the time. But I just feel, to go to your kind of question and your point, Chris, I feel like today we saw a more well-rounded performance by the team against, not a lot better than UCD, but a much better test.
Yeah, and Gally, is it any surprise then that Skip went for the unchanged squad?
No, and
that's what we said at the end. We take that same starting team again,
and because we wanted that kind of not so much performance consistency, just that mental consistency for the players to say, right, we now know, for them to play on the same pitch as they did last week with the same players around them, right? Let's have a run at this. Let's have a go. You won't probably get much better than the lineup we had tonight. There's 1 or 2 that could probably come in, but that's what we wanted. We want that kind of more of a mental aspect to it, that they'll know who they're going to be playing with, they know who's going to be there. Now, obviously, you should have that right across the squad, but we just wanted a little bit of consistency to see where they could go, because you're playing the likes of UCD. And even when you take the Cork game down there, we're going back a little bit. But they were no matter who you put out that night in Cork, they just seemed to be that fragile and that kind of just not tuned into what they were doing.
He was rushing back players that night, didn't he?
Absolutely.
He wasn't fully. Kelly wasn't.
We could have put everybody on the field. Yeah. We could have put subs and all on and wouldn't have got a game out of it. It was crazy. But you just wanted that little bit of consistency, and that's what we got tonight. And I think the performance showed it. And look, we've conceded our normal goal, but I think we've shown that when we get down and play, there's a little bit of want in them, a little bit of going forward, a little bit of bite. And what we'd said a couple of weeks ago, John Flanagan made a great point. I can't remember the game. I don't know if it was I don't know if it was Shelbourne or might have been the Bows match. There was just no fight in the squad. Whereas tonight there was, and Cork are a physical team, a quick team, Old Abbey up front. But look, it's it's exactly what we were looking for the last couple of weeks, and that's you want players to come in, but if you can keep a consistent 11 and get results, you can't ask much more than that.
Yeah, it's also 2 for 2 out of New Jersey as well. So lads, new lucky charm is found. Pingu, just to go, I suppose, through the game a little. For Cork's opener, look, I think Rory Keaton wheeled away. He was claiming it. I'm sure Louis Ainsley doesn't want anything to do with it as well. As a defender. But it did seem like Kustovic just had so much space to cross that ball in out, and I think it took us a good, nearly the first 20 minutes really did settle into the game, I thought. We were struggling to get some patterns of play. They had opened us up, and Kustovic just looked like a very comfortable player on the ball, and that proved to be the point for their first goal.
Yeah, you hit the nail on the head there. It's like they started very, very brightly, and then we started getting on top. And I think it was just around, was it Archie Davies had a free kick from just outside the box, and it looked like it was the partner of the waves for Pat Hubin to actually break the record tonight during that free kick. If you watch it back, where he was on his own and it was about 10 yards just right in front of him for Archie to pass it into, and then what did he do? He skies it over the top of the goal.
He put it over.
And then a minute and a half later, they go up the pitch and score. But it was like, yeah, they were breaking through. I mean, look, they've got fast lads up front. Tunde's unbelievable pace, unbelievable power, you know. But when that ball went through, I mean, we were talking about it in the group chat. You can blame the back four. You can blame like a load of people. To me, I think that Shepherd probably could have done better, and it's been something that's kind of been lingering for a while. And myself and Donald will be talking, like we'll be texting in our group chat, you know, throughout the matches as well, lads. And it's one where he doesn't know us. He doesn't know us a lot because he saved us a load of times, but he's been consistently inconsistent this year. And I feel like because of the season he had last year, he's getting away with it a little bit, you know. And then he made a great save about 5 minutes after he conceded the goal too, which, you know, again, it gets him away with it. But I'd like to see an improvement in his game, and maybe having a settled back four in front of him, you know, over the next, you know, the last two games, but over the next while will help with that. And I'm not seeing the same level of keeper that I saw last year, and I haven't seen it really all season, you know. He's slicing pass backs, he's slicing them out. He's not having that same level of consistency that won him all the plaudits last year. And look, that kind of happens. But for me, the back four probably could have done a better job. The midfield could have done a better job, but I think he could absolutely have done a better job. I think it's an easy blame to blame the back four all the time in front of it. Sometimes an opportunity like that. I mean, he dived after the ball was in the back of the net. You know?
Yeah, he seemed to dive over the ball maybe or something as well.
So yeah, it was a disappointing one to concede.
Yeah, Gally, your thoughts on it?
Yeah, it's similar. Like, it's only when you watch, like, I actually watched it back, but I watched it back because in real time I thought the ball moved really slow. I thought, like, it's a great pass, and look, he was a nuisance. Kosovic in the first half was an absolute nuisance, but it seemed to be just the little deflection that I thought it seemed to just not trickle over the line, but it seemed to be in slow motion, and then it was kind of an afterthought. So obviously, you know, Sheps is obviously expecting to come across the box and not end up in his path, but that's the danger of those type of crosses. You have to be alert. I would agree. Like, I think in the game, I don't remember the opposition. He had an outstanding game, but the lads, they are right. There is a point to that. Like, there is times when he can be, like, even if you look at some of the goals you conceded, I still say the one against Pat. I know there's a goalkeeper, there's a defender in his way, Waziri's in his way, but he just seems to move a little bit slow to his right. And he's done similar tonight again. But then, like Pingu said, he's pulled off two great saves. Like, we only had the words out of our mouth, and he's pulled off a cracking save. Look, and can you accept little frailties like that? Probably not. Stephen O'Donnell won't accept it. But I mean, as a fan watching in the game, you almost forget about it. You know, you just think, right, Cork have scored. He's put off a great save. We go down and win, and then you kind of just brush over. But yeah, look, it is something. It's a good point that we haven't really spoken about before. You know, is he consistent as last season? Probably not. But then again, you know, the defensive line of our team isn't as consistent either. I'd say if you've done the rate of not even goals against us, even shots on target or shots against us, it's probably much higher than it has been for the last couple of seasons. But yeah, look, you're hoping that he learns from that. And look, he's still a young keeper. I mean, look, the ball across is one of those you just don't want. Like, Chris, you're the goalkeeping union there on that one, but you do not want a ball, you know, between you and the 6-yard box. You don't want it that tight right across the face of goal. And for that, we mix up with Louis and the forward as well. It's, you know, it's just a nightmare for them. But look, it's probably really only the real bad mark against the team tonight. And you know, it's nice that we only have one. Usually it's 17.
That's true. Well, look, you kind of alluded to it already, Pingu, as well, you know, for whatever frailties, I suppose, that Chep had for the first goal, you know, the point blank save from Olabi then straight after, you know, he stands up big, he makes himself as big as he can from, you know, very little time to react to anything, stands up strong at Olabi and makes the save, like, and there's a hell of a scramble in the box straight after that. I actually thought they were going to just fluff it over the line somehow. But he seemed to just roll over and pick it up behind him. So I don't know quite what happened there. It worked out for him.
He made the save, and then it kind of, as you say, bobbled over him. So I was about to say a great save, but the Bollocks let it go over him. he managed to get a save. So that's where I kind of go from. He's consistently inconsistent, isn't he? And it's one of them, like if that goes in and he's not consistent, and that's in that particularly moment the game is over. Like, you know what I mean? We're not coming back from 2 down there, especially. So kept us in the game, and I think after that, really, it was one-way traffic, wasn't it, for the most part? I mean, they still had chances.
Well, but I think there was the Matt Healy chance that, you know, he cuts in and tries to curl it, and that was like a minute before we scored it. It was, for me, you know, it's one of those sliding door moments in the game. You know, Matt Healy cuts in, tries to bend one around the far post. It looked like Shep might have had it covered, not hard to tell, but he dives and the ball goes wide. Suddenly the ball goes up the other end of the pitch. And it's 1-1. You know, from what Cork went through the previous week, you know, it was nearly a carbon copy of what can happen within 60 seconds to turn a game around, like, isn't it?
Yeah, no, it's just mad. And like literally as soon as that goal went in of O'Kane's, I mean, goal of the season contender, obviously he definitely meant it. It definitely wasn't a cross, it was 100% the shot. But you know, that changed the game as you know. There's a fella at work who is a Cork City fan as of 2 weeks ago. Who works in corporate sales for Chicago Fire, Ryan Donlan. I actually sent him the link, so hopefully he's watching. But he even said like it seemed to knock the wind out of the sails of the Cork fans. Yeah. The shed went very quiet after that goal, and it just kind of set the tone for the rest of the game, didn't it? As I say, they had some chances, they had some possession, but overall, I think it was pretty comfortable for us after that.
Yeah, Gally, it seemed to really just knock the stuffing out of them. Like Pingu just mentioned, you know, the cross went completely silent all of a sudden. And I think we started controlling it right at halftime, exactly what Skip would have wanted. Get back into the game at halftime and then change the game plan slightly.
Yeah, and even, you know, you're stunned in the side. Cork probably fully expected, even at 1-1, even if you're watching the game, they probably thought, we've had a little bit of, you know, they've got in behind them once or twice, you know, we'll get back into it. But then I thought we were just being biased. But for me, I even watched a quick highlight before we came back on. Like you'd said, apart from the Healy chant, there's nothing really. Cork didn't really do anything after that. And like Skip, you know, we're talking about, you know, a cross or a shot. Sometimes you need goals like that. Even we mentioned the Shep save that bounces over and gets cleared off the line. You're going to need luck like that in games. And normally what's been happening this season, we're not taking advantage. We might get a bit of luck and then we're not taking advantage. We're usually on the back end. We might hit the post and then we'll go back in and we're conceding. Happened against Shells. We had the ball in their box. The Moylan's come right down the field and put the ball in the back and then over Shep's head. So we're due that little bit of luck. But I mean, the strike is, you know, look, if Messi does it, Ronaldo does it, he means it. If Steve Staunton does it, he means it. So we're going to take it as he absolutely meant it. But yeah, look, when I seen it in real time, I thought there's a bit of a head on it. I thought somebody got a header on it, even an own goal. But yeah, look, perfect timing. Skip goes in delighted. I mean, he probably would have been okay with 1-1 anyway, because there seemed to be that little bit of momentum with him that it was only a matter of time before we scored. And that's been a long time coming. We've had a lot of games where that was not happening. We could have sat till midnight and wouldn't have scored. It was just never on the cards. But I think that, you know, even at 1-0, they probably would have been well up for it in the second half. But it was delighted just to get the goal and get in. And look, it probably could have been Cork had 1 or 2 chances, but we probably should have hit them for another one. I mean, I wish to come up with my prediction for 3-1, but no, I think it's a 2-1. It hasn't flattered. It's probably flattered Cork. You know, we haven't nicked it. If anybody hasn't watched the game, we haven't nicked the game. Yeah. We've absolutely deserved it.
I think a lot of the comments though were, you know, it's a game of 2 halves there, first half. And I think that's probably the first 40 minutes.
Yeah.
Or maybe even half an hour of the first half. I don't think we were great at times, but after that, I think we pretty much controlled it.
But the thing was, we got away with it nearly. Do you know what I mean? Like like so many times this season, we've been bang average and been hammered for it and been hockeyed for it early on. Teams have dominated us. But whereas it didn't happen tonight. Now, look, and I know, you know, Cork or, you know, come up from the first division, but we said it here last week. A Buckley Cork is a different type of Cork. You know, they're a really good setup, really, you know, physical, quick. But, you know, we were more than a match them in the first half, even though they probably had slightly better of it. But they didn't really cause us any hassle with the issue of the goal, maybe, but nothing else. And it's been a long time since we're able to say, you know, we've taken the brunt of it and we're going to go on now and win the game. And yeah, like Gavin had said, I think a few other people had said, that days are there. It's a game of 2 halves. Second half was, we're probably looking at, it probably is. I'm trying to think back. It's probably performance-wise, you know, getting stuck in that fight. it's probably the best second half we've had. It's probably the best half of football we've probably had all season. I'm trying to think of a better one, but I
probably Pats at
home
was the other one.
Yeah, well, the Pats one, obviously, that's probably, that's not going to happen again for the rest of the season. Pats had a nightmare that night, but just for that little bit of drive, that little bit of want, I thought we were just definitely value for money in the second half, 100%.
Yeah, I think just to go to Ryan's goal again. Like it seemed to be something. We got a corner very early in the game, and I noticed, suddenly Skip had asked the players just to flood the 6-yard box, get in on top of Corcoran. It was obviously something they had targeted, and I was listening to a couple of Cork fans during the week on different pods, and they were also saying that the cross seems to be his weak point. If he has a weak, he's a good shot stopper. But if it's coming up and it's in a crowded space, he's not the bravest of keepers, let's say, sometimes. So clearly Skip had seen this, and they had worked on something during the week, because they packed and overloaded the 6-yard box, and that seemed, Ryan obviously didn't need any of them, but clearly it was something that they had been practicing all week, and that was the game plan today.
Yeah, I don't think he needed it with his perfectly placed shot, Chris. I knew that, but no, it seems to be a trend nowadays, doesn't it? Like corner kicks used to always start.
Yeah, we had a couple with Dougie Luiz there during the Villa season.
Yeah,
this year as well.
Now it's all starting inside the box, isn't it? Inside the 6 and crowd the keeper and not give him the space. But it's funny you mentioned Corcoran, because that goal rattled him as well, because there was a couple of times in the second half too where a few passes that he didn't claim, or a few balls came over the top.
Yeah, he came up and flapped at a few too, didn't he?
Yeah, we got a corner at one stage in the second half from it too. So he's a goalkeeper that I think the club knows. Wasn't he with the club for a while?
He was our third choice keeper only a few seasons ago.
Yeah, so I'm sure that was probably,
Oh yeah,
there was a bit of homework or a bit of knowledge there too. So, but yeah, he wasn't great, was he? In front of, or
but it's good to see. It seemed like we've had, issues before Gally, and then you can see teams putting pressure on us, and we're making wrong decisions. It was nice to see that, we were able to exploit someone else's issues for change.
It's long overdue. Like, I mean,
yeah, exactly.
But
it just means that we'd be waiting for a slice of luck or something. Whereas this was obviously some sort of a plan that was executed. Overload the box, because Corcoran doesn't want to come through a pile of players for it. So therefore, there's no point in being that far out. Even if you're closer to the goal, he still ain't coming for it, or he's going to flap at it, or it's going to be some sort of confusion.
Yeah, and it's
that seems to be exactly what happened.
Yeah, if you put enough pressure on people, and that's what I think Shelburne had done it to us in Talca Park. Shelburne had put our back line and under serious. They just got forward. Moylan they all got forward. Like, I remember Tulloch that night. If we were talking about players that night, having the better of Andrew Quinn. But as for pressure, that was one of the nights you just thought, my God, our defense can't handle that kind of, just that robustness, that kind of strength and pace. And whereas tonight, yeah, like you say, we had the upper hand on that. And it's not like, yeah, I mean, it probably is a game plan, but it goes to show the players are there. Like the players, we've got John Martin coming off the bench as well. Like the players are there to do that. Uli Cook plays tonight as well. The players that we kind of wanted, we know there's football in them. We know they have that little bit in them, and it's just getting them that feel for the bit. Like we said last week, the pitch in Turner's Cross could suit Dundalk. Yeah. And it does. Like I also hold my hand up. I said that the last time we went to Turner's Cross as well, and look what happened. But I mean,
but we just didn't have any players.
No, we just didn't have any players. Yeah, but yeah, like you say, it's great to get that, to sit here and say, right, well, we've executed that well. We've done what other teams have been doing to us pretty much all season. And it's not that we finally copped on. It's probably been we just haven't executed it well enough. And for me, like I personally didn't think we had to. We don't have to go gung ho at them. I think we were a better team overall. I think we could have played much better. That's the great stuff. I think we can play much better than that. But from the question you're asking, yeah, like I mean, that's the advantage that you want. It's not, like we said last week, they seem to take an age of passing the ball. Like this, you have to pass the ball forward tonight. Just go at them. Just somebody will slip up eventually, because they've been doing it to us all season. And like Drogheda had done it, Freddie Draper done it to us as well. He just ran at us and just got past. And that's what we need. We need to be that kind of attitude. And I don't see why the players we have and the wingers we have, we can't do it on a more regular basis. And yeah, it's worked tonight. Now, look, I'm not going to say it's worked all the time, but it's definitely worked the game plan tonight. They've come out in the second half, like everybody said, much better second half than the first. And even in the first half, we may have struggled, but it never looked like Cork were going to overrun us. And that's what you have to take from the game. Performance, never great result. Obviously, the 3 points is massive, but you have 6 from 2 now. But it's the performance we were looking for, and that's the most important thing. It's just a pity we have a 2-week break. You didn't like to play next week now, but it's performance, and would you have taken a scrappy win? Absolutely, but we haven't, and that's the best thing about tonight for me. 2-1 win, but a great performance from everybody. I
think you've hit the nail on the head there, Gally. Again, this is a season of first. The first time I'm going to. I think I agreed with you once earlier in the season. This is why I come on. I don't come on every week. I like to be in good form when I do it. But you talked about like getting at teams and going at them, and that's probably been the common criticism, hasn't it, of Skip's side, is we're great at possession and we're great at keeping the ball, but we probably are too relaxed when it comes to that pushing forward. And it was great tonight to see, like, O'Kane, every time he took a touch, it was forward, it wasn't sideways, it wasn't backwards, he was trying to go forward. It didn't always work, and it's not going to always work, but just when you do that, you put the opposition on the back foot all the time. So that's probably, and maybe it's something Skip is going to see, maybe it's something he's going to want to change, maybe not, you know what I mean? It's his philosophy, but that's probably been the biggest criticism, hasn't it? Especially over probably not the last 2 games, but the few weeks before that, is that we're having loads of the ball, we're just not doing a ton with it.
Yeah. I think Pingle do though as well, like tonight, a big difference without the ball. We were noticeably pressuring the opposition. That's something that we haven't done in a long time as well. Like we go and we get a corner in the first minute or something like that, and it's just down to us putting pressure. Is that back to just having, Ryan O'Kane out in the left in the first half and Dickie Kelly up the right, just natural wingers who know how to pressure. And then, like you said, possibly with Hooban dropping into, like, it looks like he's in the 10 row, it frees up another striker in Elliott tonight to kind of push on and put pressure onto the back four. Because we were very noticeable putting the pressure on to them on their back four with balls back to Corcoran. And then, like you said, in the second hand, Corcoran's distribution went to shit, like, for him, because he couldn't handle the pressure coming back. We were constantly pushing them back as quick as we can. And that's something we definitely haven't seen all season long. That was to you, Pingle.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, no.
I thought that. I was like,
yeah, sorry.
I said it to him at the start. Yeah.
Sorry, I didn't know if I was going to cough there or not. But no, that's it exactly. And but maybe part of it is that Skip, because he's been under a little bit of pressure, and he'd be the first to probably tell you that he's been under pressure. Maybe he has to change his tactics up a little bit and go with that. But I think a lot of it is because of the bodies. And I think, Gally, a few minutes ago, you mentioned, Yili, Coco, etc., put on better performances tonight. They've had to make up for the likes of Sloggett being out for a few weeks. I know Hooban was missing for a couple of weeks earlier in the season as well, so unlike last year.
Benson, there's a lot in the middle.
Yeah, and going back even a few weeks on this podcast and other podcasts, there was talk about these players aren't as good as the players that came in last year. But last year, we had Lewis McCarry, who was next to Boyler and Mark Conley for large parts of the season. We had Bradley, who was next to Hooban, who played a lot of the season. So these lads, it has been a very young team for 3 or 4 weeks, and now we're finally getting, as I say, I think Sloggett's influence is underestimated. I don't think Hooban's is. I think Hooban, is Pat Hooban. He's an enigma in a Dundalk jersey, and he will be remembered as such, no matter what I said 3 years ago. But then you also have Boyler back, and even though he's not the oldest of players, but Ainsley, and again, he's just been impressive. This is someone who comes with an international pedigree, whether it's Gibraltar or anybody. He comes with an international pedigree, and the 2 games since he's came back, he looks like an international player. He looks like one of the top players in the squad. So now that we're starting to get that back, and we have, as you say, we haven't even really spoke about Benson because he's still in and out of it. And this is probably the first podcast where we've gone a half hour without talking about Keith Ward, and that's a luxury, right? Because in the other games, you've been saying, well, why isn't Wardy on in place of the younger players or whatever? And now tonight, Wardy was not that Wardy wasn't needed. There was a time tonight where I actually thought it might have been worth throwing him on, but it just that influence hasn't been as evident that we needed that kind of outlet, tonight. So it's great to see that mix now tonight of young players and the more experienced lads back together.
Yeah, Gally, like one thing I noticed with Ainsley as well was there was about halfway through the first half, and Tunde seemed to be just going at Ainsley constantly, and there was a break in play at one side, and I seen Louis went straight over to Dara Leahy to kind of say, come closer to me, because I'm getting isolated with this one player. And if I get beaten, he's straight in on goal. And after that, you could see Leahy was kind of there you could mop up anything in behind. So he kind of let Louis kind of dive in and go toe to toe with him. But as soon as that ball broke out, someone was there to pick it up. And Yili Coco the same. He tended to drop a little bit deeper in that first half to help Ainsley. And I think after that kind of nullified Tunde, because I can't remember him doing too much. It was a while. I was really worried about the physicality that he was bringing. But just having that experience, like Pingu said, of an international player, he knew when he needed the extra help and how to direct that help in. I think that was the key part. It wasn't like he was just saying, Jesus, lads, I need help here. And, nothing constructive about it. He was like, when I go, come in behind me or come in front of me here, I'm going to force. So if Tunde came at him, he'd either force him into Yili Coco, and that meant there was two players there to tackle, or he let him run, and that was for Dara Leahy to kind of pick up in behind. It's smart play, but that comes with experience, doesn't it?
Yeah, and I know it was mentioned a couple of weeks ago where you kind of thought, he's got 36 caps for Gibraltar. I know Flana would text and said, Sonny Nadisat had Faroe Islands caps as well, but Louis comes from a higher pedigree of club football. So he was at Blackburn. So even Blackburn reserves, that'd be a high caliber, intense level of football, under 21s, under 19s, through the ranks. It's a much higher caliber of football than what, maybe what Sonny might have played in Scandinavia. But yeah, that little bit of experience. And, I think he's been selected. I think I saw that he's been selected for the games coming up for Gibraltar. So even regardless of the team he's playing in at Gibraltar, the opposition is the important thing. So if he can handle himself at the opposition, like he's come up against world beaters, Mbappe, he'll come up against Evan Ferguson, not in the not too distant future as well. But he's come up against real top international quality over the last, how many years he's playing. He's got 30 odd caps. So he's probably 2 or 3 seasons. And if he can bring that level of consistency and that little bit of know-how, like he's 20, is he 22? He's 22, is he? I think that's kind of like, he's got 10 years on Andy Boyle. It's a crazy, to have that type of caliber. And I know it's only 1 game or 2 games that he's played. He's come back from illness, but you knew when he signed, we'd seen him at left back first game of the season and early in the season. He's going to be an excellent signing. And, what would worry me is that is keeping him. I think he's going to be a top class player. You could be looking at someone, you're talking about experience. Your mic's on mute there, Chris. So if you're speaking, I can't hear you.
So 23 years old.
23, yeah. So, but you could be looking at, I know we'll go down the line here, but if you were to talk, is sign him and keep him, you could be looking at a captain there, like that centre half, that presence. I knew, not I knew, but you knew the first night you seen him in Oriel Park, I'll be the left back. He's excellent. He covers the ground well. He reads the game really well, as most centre halves should do. But at such a young age to have that amount of experience, he could end up being a fantastic footballer for us.
He's a former Chelsea academy player. So he's Chelsea, Wimbledon, and Barnet academies, so. Yeah,
so he's been he's been through even for Chelsea alone. And look, I know the dogs in the street have signed at Chelsea. They signed 200 players a season. But I mean, to be selected to play, I mean, look, he must have had something about him. But Blackburn, they're no slouches either. Great setup, and to be picked for your country, regardless of what the country is, to get 30 odd caps at 22 years of age. That's what I keep saying. If he keeps that consistency, he'll have 100 caps by the time he hits 30. If that was the consistency level, you know what I mean? And they're not qualifying for anything. That's just international friendlies and qualifying campaigns. But that can only benefit a club like us. And players like that, he might go not unnoticed, but you'll nearly forget that you almost forgot he signed for us at one stage. He was out for that long. Yeah, look, just go back to your point. That experience
that could have gone one way or the other.
Exactly. Exactly. And to keep the likes of an Noel Abbey, quiet, not quiet, but I mean to keep him at bay for most of the night. Yeah, look, he's been a nuisance maybe for the goal, but there's nothing sinister in him for the other 90 minutes of the game, the other 80 minutes. Yeah, I think I think we're hopefully over the next couple of weeks going to see a real kind of good partnership with him and Boyle, consistency. So look, I think you got to be excited for players like that for the second half of the season, because he's definitely match fit, but I mean, he's only going to get better as the season goes on.
It's a new signing for the rest of the season.
That's it.
It feels like it. Yeah.
That was probably his 4th, 5th game all year.
Fourth game
of the season. And I think just a couple of points, and then I'll finish up on him. Is like he's deceptive, isn't he? Because he doesn't have the frame of Boyle or Brian Gartland or any of these players. Like he's quite slim. He looked at one stage in the first half, he was drawing them out wide, and he was showing them out to the wing, and his feet were just going all over the place. It was like that there. It was great to see it. Like nothing about him looked like he should have been a footballer, but he's so calm, he's so cool, he's collected on the ball. And last point I'll make on him, it's great to see someone in Oriel Park with such nice hair as well, isn't it?
It is incredible.
With a great head of hair.
Pingu, just before you go, just a quick word on John Martin's goal as well, and then we get your man of the match just before you tip off. But look, Skip makes the changes. It probably, he probably sees that we were in control of the game. He can afford to get someone like Mali back in and really get us playing from the middle of the park, whereas I think Yili Coco was probably going a little deeper and not as expansive as he would have wanted. But the pass from Mali perfectly weighted out to O'Kane, and it's a beautiful cross in too, isn't it?
Yeah, no, it was great, and it was a great finish too. You know what I mean? It was when he ran away, I didn't see straight away who scored. I actually thought it was Hooben for a minute because he had for Skip. So I was like,
Hooben was going for the bicycle kick.
Yeah,
he says if I'm breaking this record, I'm going all out.
But yeah, no, I think you're right, and I think it goes back again to the squad depth again tonight, isn't it? Where probably there's been some games this season where we've had no choice but to get a little bit more conservative when we make our subs because we didn't have those attacking options when, as you say, when Yili Coco was dropping, we were able to bring Mali in that was able to get us back pushing forward again, So it goes back to that. But it was a great ball into the box, and as I say, it was good finish too.
Yeah. Before you go, I see there's tweets there saying the Yank is back. What's going on?
Yanko.
Finta definitely said the Yank is back.
I'm not going anywhere for a while. I'm sticking around for another 10-15 minutes. But
help you, boy.
If you want me to go, I'll go. Like
no. Then you're all. Then you're. Don't need
I'm only on to sell. I'm only on to sell tickets for Chicago Fire versus Inter Miami on October 4th, featuring Lionel Messi. But we can talk about that later.
Anyone interested? It'll be the old FAI style here. We'll have a hotel room and a briefcase, and you just put the money in.
The only tickets that are left are pitch side, and they go for 20 grand a pop. So if anybody wants them, let me know.
We're all over them.
Gally, like we touched on the point there. If you look at the substitutes from Skip tonight, Tulloch, Mali, Martin, all coming on, probably all massive impact tonight. And really, for the likes of Tulloch and Mali, if you get a chance to bleed them into the game, this is the way you want to when we're suddenly on the front foot and Skip's going for it to try to win it. And I think all three of those substitutes had a massive impact tonight in that second half. Yeah,
and it's funny on Tulloch in particular because we spoke about it before that he got a lot of minutes. Early on in the season he got a lot of minutes, and he probably didn't show that he should be getting. I know, look, we've had injuries and stuff like that, but there was times there he was playing and probably not shouldn't have been playing, but wasn't really performing that well that he earned a start the next game. And we kind of said, not that anybody's listening to us, but we did say, look, maybe a time on the bench, because I had said on, I think Steph might have said as well, when we're at our best, it's Kelly and O'Kane. They're our two best options. But imagine running a team so ragged that you can bring on a Tulloch, or a Keith Ward, whatever it may be, and like be comfortable in the knowledge that we're going to run them ragged again. Whereas we're not. I don't want to use the word downgrading, but they're coming on and they're able to get into a game that's going to be at their pace because we've been playing at it for the last 60, 70 minutes, and that's what we hadn't had earlier on because we had Tulloch starting games and wasn't really affecting it at times. And then when the subs were made, they were pointless. There was we were talking about Sods and Skip's substitutions tonight were perfect, but there's times when they weren't, and we'd said it here in the pod, they were just crazy subs. They were just there for the sake of making them because of injuries. And now we're in a situation where we can have Ryan O'Kane, Dickie Kelly, even if it's John Martin coming on, and then you've got the benefit of a Tulloch coming off the bench, whether it be a Keith Ward, a Conor O'Malley, whatever it is, the players are playing that well in the field that we know when these lads come on, they're only going to improve it, if that makes sense, because they're not going to drop the level, because we know Conor O'Malley can play, we know he's a top footballer, we know Tulloch is going to be a top footballer. And it's just nice having that little bit of cushioning, maybe is probably the best word for it, that we can bring these on and they can even affect the game even more, because Kustovic, like we had said just before we come on, he had a crack in first half, but then went missing in the second. I don't know, we gassed himself before half time or ran out of ideas, but he went missing in the second half, and the lads got to him very early, and they ran him ragged in the second half, and the substitutions, perfect. I mean, it's ideal to have players like that to be able to come off the bench and know that it's only going to improve the game, if that makes sense. Because substitutes should improve the game, but they haven't been, is what I'm trying to say. Because over the last couple of weeks, the substitutes have just been put on to give someone minutes, because we haven't had that luxury of a bench that's strong enough to impact the game when they come on. And that's what I keep alluding to, just the performance of the whole squad. That's exactly what we've been looking for tonight, particularly in the second half.
Yeah. Pingu, to have a versatile player like Ryan O'Kane that we can swap the wings over, and he can still have a massive impact over on the right to accommodate, the likes of Tulloch coming in or something like that. Not every club can afford that luxury, I suppose, for it. But it's great that we have that in Ryan O'Kane, and I think pretty much if you ask Ryan to play anywhere in the team, he'd probably do it as well. But he's not completely uncomfortable out on that right hand side. Like he's done it for a fair bit of this season to accommodate Tulloch. But it seems like now Skip is kind of saying, you're only going to have to do that now when I need him to influence the game in a different way.
Yeah, I think it's one of them that he's comfortable, cutting inside, but I think he's most comfortable obviously going out into the wide area, out on wide left. I think it's plain to see. But as you say, he's an honest player. I think if you told him he was going to play a goalkeeper, I think he'd probably go in goal, no problem at all. Like he's the type of player that gives you his all, and it's been a bit of a mad season for him, hasn't it? Because again, his form is a bit up and down too. He hasn't been consistent throughout the season, and there's loads of factors into that. But it's the ability, as you say, to move him across, that you can put Tulloch on. And like, how many times this season have we had the quality of Tulloch, who again, another player who's not consistent all the time, but he has those flashes of absolute brilliance.
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
And tonight when he comes on, you get excited. And he's another one that you call a bollocks, but 10 minutes after he comes in, when he puts that ball over.
He that one over.
But the ability, like Skip will probably tell you that too. And when we look back over that kind of patch that we had for 4 weeks or whatever, or 3 or 4 weeks, a couple of weeks back, we haven't had the luxury of those kind of players coming off the bench. You've had a Dickie Kelly that was coming off the bench that was still getting back to fitness. That was rushed back. You were saying that we rushed Hubin back a few weeks back as well. So Tulloch, to the best of my knowledge, wasn't injured or anything like that. He was kept out of the team by O'Kane and Dickie. So being able to have that quality definitely helps. And I think you're right. I think putting O'Kane out there, it would have actually been nice, because I think Tulloch's right-footed. It would have been nice to see how he plays on the right, because he hasn't really done it that much this season. It's been on the left, and keep that width. But look, it all worked out in the end. So what the fuck?
I think it was probably just the fact that Kustovic kind of was tiring as the game went on. Probably looking for fresh legs against it. Callie, just a quick word on Cammy Elliott, because we're probably not seeing goal scoring side of his game, but he's definitely influential in the game. I think Pingu's already mentioned that it's allowing Hubin to drop deeper and kind of create play a bit now as well. I know he came off for John Martin, and we'll come to that in a second, but another decent enough performance tonight.
Yeah, and I was thinking about that one. Even we got to about 60, 70 minutes, and just not even at the substitute. I was thinking, even when Cammy, even as a Dundalk fan watching Cammy Elliott, we don't know what we're going to get with him. Do you know that kind of way? We kind of still don't know, right? Is he an out-and-out striker? Can he play in behind Hubin? Can he do what Hubin does? Could you possibly play him out wide because he got a bit of pace? Even as Dundalk fans, I personally, from watching him and seeing him in Oriel Park, I still don't know what he can do for us, if that makes sense. But that's not being rude. But it must be an absolute nightmare for other teams, because they probably haven't seen enough of him consistently to say, right, how do we deal with him? But I think, again, he's come in from, look at the lower leagues in Scotland, probably a surprise signing, but I mean, the lads would have done the homework on him. I think he could be a very, very influential player. I don't know whether it still remains to be seen whether he'd have the impact that John Martin has, but John seems to get into positions that Cammy doesn't. But are they the same player? Not really. I mean, John has that little bit more about him, but Cammy seems to give us that little bit of an option that he's built like Pat Hubin, but he has that little bit extra. he has a little bit of better zip than Pat. But there seems to be that just a little bit missing for me, that although he's consistent and he never really has a nightmare of a game, it's hard to judge him because he doesn't play enough for me. He doesn't get enough run in the team.
He's not on the end of enough, though, is he?
No, yeah, and it seems to be so kind of. It's not that it's an issue. I just don't know where. Like, I'd be thinking as an opposition manager, I don't know what to do with this fella, and that's our benefit. That's our benefit, because even as the Dundalk fans, we haven't seen him play enough. But I do think he has that. There's that little bit of enigma coming off the bench from him that, you know, centre halves might not know what to do with him. So I think it's to our benefit that it's going the way it is for him. But, you know, you'd like to think he gets a run at maybe. I was going to say the FA Cup, but then when you see the draw for the FA Cup, that's probably not the best time to put him out. But you're hoping maybe a European matches, you know, you might get a run. Like, you know, I'd like to see him a bit more consistency. But then look at when you've Pat Hooban, you know, we said it before, a 50% Pat Hooban is better than 100% of most of the league. So you're not going to really get a run. But I'd like to see a bit more of him. Where that is, I don't know. I mean, as a 2 up top, it's an option. I don't think he done himself, you know, no harm tonight. I don't think he's done himself any harm all season, really. I mean, he's probably missed. I can't remember. We spoke about it one night. He missed an absolute sitter one night. Was it at Oriel Park? I can't remember who it was. Like, he should have really scored, and we kind of said that's why Pat Hooban will come back in as soon as he's fit.
Yeah,
those kind of reasons. You got to take those chances when they come along, and he probably isn't doing that enough. But I still think he's a threat. I think you know. I was going to say against the so-called lower teams. I mean, we were right down there at one stage, but definitely he's an option for the likes of a UCD, for a draw, you know, although albeit tonight. But, you know, I think as fans, for me, I don't know what you think, but I still don't know what we're going to get out of him. He's kind of still that unknown entity coming off the bench for me. He's quick. He can be strong. I'm sure if he gets enough chance, he'll score. But is he as good as John Martin and Pat Hooban up top? I don't think so. But then, look, we haven't seen enough of him. So it's one of those weird situations that I agree with your point, Chris, that you know, he's not doing himself any harm. He's definitely come in and run the minutes for us. But it's just getting that little bit extra out of him to get him in on goal, to get him firing on goalkeepers, scoring a few goals. And then that'll kind of kick him on for the rest of the season. But, you know, I don't think he's doing himself any harm. You know, the lads are kind of... O'Donnell knows what he's doing, bringing him, and he's brought him in tonight, which is unusual, but... Good man, Lawrence. But yeah, he does actually. Now that you say it, Lau, he does. He has that touch of Matt Doherty about him. Yeah, no.
This is where you've been in Atletico Madrid for the past while, is it? your loan's up, Pingo, in your back. Pingo, just your thoughts on Cammy Elliott?
Yeah, I think when you compare him to like Pat and John, he probably has a little bit more technical ability, you know, about him. That's no slight on either of the two lads, but he actually is a little bit more gifted with the ball at his feet than those two. But
yeah, you think we kind of seen that in UCD with his mazy run that he must have about 5 players on that time.
Yeah, and he saw a little bit tonight too. You know, there was times where he got on the ball. I think he probably has a little bit more of an engine than Pat does currently. Like, you know, Pat's obviously still well capable, and as Gally said, 50% Pat Hooban's better than all of the league, you'd probably say, for the most part, you know, apart from maybe a couple from Rovers. Pat's definitely up there, you know, but I think Elliott can get around the pitch a little bit more than Pat can. I think even we look at John Martin, and there's probably not been enough made of it, and I only noticed it tonight. He's kind of filled out a little bit too, you know. He looks a lot stronger than he did a year ago, so I think Elliott can probably get about a little bit more. But in front of goal, I would agree with Gally. I don't think he's probably as good as those two lads right now, but look at with Pat Hooban at training, who's a better player to learn from, you know, to learn that from, and hopefully with time he'll be a good player. I think there's something there about him, you know what I mean? But you can't keep either of those two lads out. I mean, anytime Pat's not in the squad, who are we calling for? We're calling for John Martin to start, you know, and he just keeps popping up with goals, you know, off the bench and that. So at the minute he's the one that's kind of worth the chance, isn't he? Yeah,
and Gally, just on John Martin, he's made this whole career now at the club of coming off the bench. I think it said he's our Ole. He substitute that comes off, he gets you the goal. Just when there's tired legs all around him and there's an opportunity in the box, he seems to be in the right place at the right time so many times.
Yeah, and I laugh, like every time I see him coming onto the field, I come at it from the point of the opposition centre half. They must be absolutely dreading this. Like, he's a tank. He's an absolute, like, we talk about Pat Hooban being, you know, a fit fella. John Martin's every bit. Like, he looks like he's built into a child's jersey. He's absolutely huge. Like, I'd hate to go up against him. He's every bit as physical as Pat Hubert. He hasn't got, obviously, that little bit, that extra that Pat has, but it must be a nightmare being run around the field by Pat and Cammy Elliott all night, and then to look over at the bench, see John Martin coming on. And like, you know, we when he signed for Dundalk, it was only really YouTube we'd seen him. Obviously, we'd seen him against Dundalk playing for Waterford. But that kind of player, you know, we go back, and not to go back, we had that David McMillan type, you know, centre forward, great in the air. Pat's also got that, but John just seems to give that little bit of that extra physicality. The defenders seem to be, they almost have to take a step back to deal with him and have a look at it. It's a weird situation, because it is only Gunnar Solskjaer. Like, you know, he's coming off the bench. He's probably worth a goal every time he comes off the bench, pretty much, or he's definitely going to get a chance. Like, it's very rare he'll come off the bench and not get a chance on goal.
Yeah.
Whereas, you know, if he starts, you might not get that benefit of a game out of him. But I mean, to come off the bench again, we spoke about him early in the season. I mean, that's going to be, as the season goes on, as the European matches come in, and he may suit European football better than the lads. We don't know, but to have that player coming off the bench, I think he 100%. There's no doubt he's a better impact player than he is playing at 90 minutes. Because we have seen him. Look, he's excellent, but I think coming off the bench as an opposition centre half after being run ragged for 75, 80 minutes, he's an absolute nuisance for anybody to deal with, and including the goalkeepers. Like, especially a goalkeeper like that, Corcoran wouldn't be the tallest of goalkeepers, similar to Sheps. And yeah, look, he's right on the spot. It's what I remember Ferguson talking about. He watches the game, so he knows when he comes on. He's not just sitting there having the crack on the sideline. He's observing what his position will be marked against, and he comes on and he finds exactly the right spot. And that's how he's going to go up the goal charts, because, you know, he might not play enough minutes, but he'll always get a chance on goal. And 9 times out of 10, he will put them away. He's missed 1 or 2 sitters, I think, early in the season against Drogheda. But look, I think he's brilliant to have coming off the bench, and it must be great as a staff, as a management, to have, right, we've got this boy in the locker if we need a goal. They didn't tonight, but definitely to settle things down with 2. You know, he'll occupy 2 players all the time, the same as Pat. Yeah, look, a brilliant player, brilliant. You know, we look back probably maybe next season, you know, if the squad's still the same, and he'd be one of the better signings. You know, he'd be right up there with a shrewder operator. That's the signings that Stephen has made. And yeah, I think he's an excellent addition to the squad, and great. I think great for everybody to come off the bench, and, you know, anybody to look at him coming off the bench. So you have that option then after playing a game of, you know, 75, 80 minutes.
Yeah, Pingu, like, as much as we're talking about how important and how well we played tonight, and, you know, the performance was good, and, you know, our substitutes were good, how important was that win tonight when you look at other results going on tonight? Like, that's probably really open. Like, I'll come to Eamon Collins' question there, like, he's saying, you know, surely third is doable now.
Yeah,
you know, you think about the players that's coming back in as well, and the transfer window opening up, you'd say you just need to be in that mix. That's kind of what we were saying. There's a couple of little mini happening and going on there at the same time. But, like, that's an important win tonight. Not too many teams got wins tonight. No,
and I think you look at it, and I keep going back, because I feel like up until last week, everything was doom and gloom for about 3 weeks. You know, it was literally, it was the worst in the world going on at the club, and everything was bad, and podcasts were saying about how everything was a shambles and this and that. Not the town end, of course, we're always eternally positive, but you know, we're only 4 points off third place. I think we're only 6 or 7 points off second, and I don't think we're a million miles off. I'm not even gonna say it, but, you know, there's not much between us.
We are 4 points off second,
right?
3 points off third, and 2 points off fourth. So
considering we had a blip for 2 or 3 weeks, we're still very, very close to
considering Bows were 11 points ahead of us. They're now 2.
Exactly. You know, so and a lot of that comes down, as I say, and I'll keep referencing it because I've obviously been sitting in the wings for most of the season, but I've been following along. Like, you know, from a football perspective, when you have the amount of injuries and the amount of setbacks that the club has had, you're not going to pick up points. But we still kind of steadied along. I think probably the frustrating part is we went out against there's the lads.
Thanks, lad. Right, okay, man of the match. Good luck.
We went out against Rovers and didn't do ourselves any favours in that game, you know, that kind of way. And I think that put a very negative spin on things. But No, I would agree 100% with him, and I think 15 games to go, we're starting to hit our stride a little bit in terms of getting players back. I mean, you can't really base it off of the last 2 games, but you would hope, as Gally says, it would have been great to have a game next week to keep the momentum going. But you would just hope we'll be able to keep that going into the European run, and who knows if we can get a player or two during the close season. I know Eamon referenced it, and everybody's been referencing Horgan. I don't know if we'll be in the market for a player with those kind of wages, but you know, you just don't know who's going to be available. You don't know who Skip and Garth are looking at, and you just fingers crossed we get 1 or 2 players. I don't think we need a lot of players. Like, I don't think we need an overhaul of a squad. I think maybe just 1 or 2 just to shore up positions in case we go through a little injury run like that again. But it's very Dundalk, isn't it? It's reminiscent even of Stephen Kenny's first year and 10 years ago in 2013, where we started a little bit slow and then we kind of hit the ground running halfway through the season, and suddenly you're up thereabouts. So I'm very, very confident that we could be pushing for 3rd place this year, and we're gonna get payback on Rovers in the cup as well and beat them 4-1. So yeah, that's my.
We haven't really mentioned the draw yet. Like, that's a mental draw. We could have done a podcast just on that alone. Couldn't believe it when they committed that.
Well, Gally, like, you know, Ping has mentioned, you know, we probably only need a couple additions to come back in, but at the same time, in around there, like, I'm trying to figure out when that cup match can actually take place, because both clubs are going to be heavily involved in different European competitions. They're going to be could be flying away on a Monday, so that means there's no Sunday game. Could be playing on a Thursday, for our qualifiers. So God only knows when they'll actually be able to schedule this game. But 1 or 2 new bodies in there would do the world of good, because we've seen that before with, you know, Stephen Kenny was always good at bringing in those acquisitions just when we needed to start peaking and get that competition. Because I'm wondering if, with the extra players coming back now, if the extra competition could be raising everyone's game for places in this team as well.
Yeah, I'd agree with Pingu. You know, we definitely, like, I mean, a couple of weeks ago we probably would have said, look, let's get rid of 6 or 7. But we have, you know, we got to take everything into context. You know, like, there's 1 or 2 probably for me that aren't cut out for it. But that's not to say that they can't be used, you know, in a squad setup. You know, definitely there's 1 or 2 that aren't good enough for the 11. But I mean, as the season goes on, you may come to rely on these players. Like Eamon had mentioned there, the obvious elephant in the room is Darrell Hogan. Look, we could be completely out of our depth saying this, but even if you got someone like that in, it's got to be worth a punt, because the players, that kind of quality and caliber and history of player that we've had at the club before coming in, that might be the only player you need. You know, that could boost it right up to another level. When you look at the likes,
would he have interest though from England still?
That's it, of course. I can't believe he hasn't had. Yeah, and without being disrespectful to the club he has played for, I can't believe he hasn't played at a higher. Like, for me, when Darrell Hogue was at Dundalk, he was a Premier League level player. In a squad, but 100. I couldn't believe he only gone to Preston, then he was up in Scotland, back down to Wickham. I can't believe that he hasn't been snapped up by someone, or isn't going to be snapped up by someone, because I think he's quality. Like, you're talking about a man who's consistently in Stephen Kenny's squad. Like, you know, Mickey Duffy's not in Stephen Kenny's squad. You know, like, these boys have been called upon for years and never got a running at it. But Darrell Hogue was in there in the mix all the time. Would you have an interest if clubs in England come knocking? Maybe not. You'd like to think the home board, you know, that kind of calling you might make on it. But look, you would love to get a caliber, a player like that in. Whether you could pull it off, I don't know. But
that's a statement signing, though, isn't it?
It is, and like, if you do nothing else, for me, that's a boost for everybody. That's club, staff, fans, the town in general, players that they have already. But at the same time, if we get everybody fully fit and singing from the same hymn sheet, we might not need anybody. You know, like, this was always the argument. You know, if players aren't going to turn up, they need to get rid of. You know, but if you can get that consistency level in, then, you know, you might not. It's not that you might not need anybody. You might not need to go as drastic as we kind of thought in the early season. I still think I don't think we don't need a player on the wing. We probably need a player in the midfield. We probably need that kind of engine in midfield. Keith Ward is an excellent footballer, but he can't play 90 minutes every week. Conor Malley can play 90 minutes every week, but isn't hitting the ground. Illy Cook was the same. They're just not getting that run of consistency. Whereas if you sign someone like a Darrell Hogan, you will get that. There's no doubt about it. There's no doubt about it. You're going to get that type of player. Could he play in behind? I don't know, but I don't think it could do any harm. Like, I mean, a player like that kind of caliber coming in. My worry is that if we say that's not an option and they know that's not an option, I don't know where you go in the league. You're probably looking outside the league again. There's nobody I don't see anybody coming in as a surprise sign. I know we got Robbie McCourtin last year halfway through, but I don't see anybody from the league that would improve the squad that you're going to get without having to pay a fee for it. And but they'll have to pull a rabbit out of the hat somewhere across the water, I think. But do I think we need a lot of signings? No, I'd agree with Pingu. 1 or 2, maybe. But they've got to be the right. You can't be bringing in squad players. You've got to bring boys in that are going to either raise the level of the club and improve the players that they're going to be coming up against for competition. Because these lads are going to be fighting for competition now. Because let's be honest, they've probably 1 or 2 might have come to the league to get back over. And they've got to come up a level now if they want to get that, or they're going to be on the dole. Simple as that.
Yeah.
Or we on the dole probably for calling them out on this podcast. But I definitely look just for transfers. I don't think we need a lot. I think if everybody's on the same hymn sheet, they get every 2-week break now, to get everything going for the European run. Like Pingu said, 1 or 2 maybe just in areas would be sufficient, I think.
Right. The only thing, before we go off on another tangent, lads, we probably should actually do the man of the match competition. Pingu, I'll come to you first.
I'm gonna go with the masses tonight, and I'm just gonna pick Ryan O'Kane. I don't have any real rhyme or reason apart from the fact that he scored probably the greatest goal that Dundalk has ever seen. Before John Martin scored the greatest goal that Dundalk has ever seen. I'm going to go with O'Kane tonight because he just looked lively, and as I say, I think that was one of his better performances this season. So for me, Ryan O'Kane.
Gally.
Yeah, same carbon copy and paste. Yeah, no, I think, look, 1 or 2. Louis had a good game as well, I think. But yeah, look, Ryan O'Kane is that little bit of like Pingu said, he was inconsistent at the start of the season. He had a tough run at the start of the season. Probably maybe needed a wee break. But yeah, look, players like that, the cream always comes to the top. I think he's top class. I don't think there's anybody on his day. I don't think there's anybody in the league as good as him on his day when he's on it. I think he's top class. Mickey Duffy maybe. I think he's absolutely top class. Yeah, for me, man of the match. And that's he's getting man of the match without even being outstanding. So that tells you something. Evan O'Kane, obviously, his brother got the goal of the month last month. But yeah, Ryan O'Kane all the way. Yeah.
Having a quick look down through most of the ones, like he's probably got over 10 nominations here on it, so it was a bit of a landslide in one direction for it. So look, I think that's a fair one. I'm very, very tempted though to give it to Lar for his Matt Doherty comment, because that made me chuckle tonight. But that'd be unfair for everyone else to put in for the man of the match competition. So any other night, this was a bad result.
If it was a compliment, I would have gave it to Laura, but I don't know if it is or if it's an insult. So I don't know if
I think we'll give it to Ryan for tonight. So Ryan Norman got his comment in early enough then as well for it, and he was bigging up Ryan all week long. So fair play to him. He's backed himself on that one then as well. So well done to Ryan. Lads, I think before we wrap up, we should probably talk about the FAI's new strategic plan that got announced this week as well. We got some leaks of it earlier in the week, but on Thursday was the official launch of it. An ambitious 863 million plan that we have to find somewhere in the government. It's broken down obviously into different categories, different areas, I suppose, for development between grassroots, League of Ireland, and international. And they're looking for that over different phases over the 15-year period as well. And Pingu, I suppose, from afar looking in, what did you pick up from the strategic plan, and how feasible do you think some of this is? How ambitious?
Yeah, I mean, probably the way the FAI has gone is they've been overly ambitious, and they're hoping to kind of land somewhere in the middle, I would say, But it's very interesting. I actually read the whole thing. Put me to sleep. No, but I gave it all a read. I think it's good. It's not just improving grassroots. It's improving football in this country as a whole and getting the academy structures in place. I think as Dundalk fans, it's a time to be excited now because we've all been calling for funding and we've all wanted funding. I saw someone, I can't remember who it was, tweeted that, of course, they used Oriel Park on the RT News last night as an example of areas that aren't fit for, grounds that aren't fit for purpose. But outside of Ireland, Dundalk and Shamrock Rovers are the two most recognisable names in League of Ireland football. And I can say that now, being in football circles now in America in the professional game, like people know Shamrock Rovers and they know Dundalk Football Club, and then you show them the two grounds and you've got one very, very nice ground. You've got one ground that, which club has been more successful in Europe in the last 10 years is the question you would ask. And it's Dundalk, you know what I mean? And Oriel Park hasn't reflected that for various reasons, But hopefully with this strategic plan, I'm sure Dundalk is earmarked as one of the areas, Dundalk and probably Drogheda, but I'm sure with certainty that Dundalk is absolutely is earmarked as a ground for redevelopment or building a green site, which I'm afraid to use that statement on the podcast because that might open up a 40-minute conversation. But no, I think it's great. I think I like the fact that they want to invest heavily in the academy too, the academy structures. So now it looks like there's an actual pathway in Ireland, or they're trying to create a pathway from grassroots football, which I'm sure even Gally, with yourself, heavily involved with the Bells, having that grassroots. And now there's going to be going from that to having legitimate academies at every club to now having fit for purpose League of Ireland grounds, 20 grounds, isn't it? I think the plan is to have 10 grounds with 20,000 seat stadiums. And the other 10 will have 6,000, isn't it? I believe. So I think having that is, and having that pathway is great. So you're probably not going to see the fruits of that for about 10 years, in Dundalk. But I think as a Dundalk fan, I think it's great. And someone made a great point is the FEI have been quite strategic even in when they've put this out, because we're gearing towards another general election. And I spoke to a fella who watches the podcast a lot, who's involved in politics, Stephen Todd, and I said to him, I was like, if I was a Dundalk fan, every politician that comes to my door, that's the question that I would be asking now, is what's going to be done to redevelop Oriel or to get Dundalk a fit for purpose stadium, So I think there's loads of positives to it. And it's not just positives from a Dundalk perspective, it's a grassroots level too, which can only benefit towns like Dundalk. And I think it's not going to be Dublin centric. I think it's going to be, it's going to be levied around the whole country, which is great to see.
Yeah, look, Ali, I suppose the fact that they've taught this into phases as well is probably a good thing, because, as Pingu mentioned, at the end of it, they're looking for 10, 20,000 capacity stadiums in the Premier Division. But like in the phase one, it's a talk of 6 to 10,000 capacity stadiums. That sounds like a figure which would probably suit the league a lot more. I love the ambition of the 20, and I'd love to think we've got an audience for that. When we break down numbers, 390 million for the League of Ireland. Like, I never remember any sort of a capital investment like that into the league before. We think of the lack of prize money and everything else, and where we have to get any sort of capital like that. Like, that's a massive chunk to go to the league. 426 million for grassroots football, as well. Like, that's massive. Like, talking about building proper academies that kind of are set to a plan. They're talking about League of Ireland with, proper, probably some sort of hybrid or grass pitch, proper LED lighting, like a high level of consistency across the league. That's definitely what's missing at times.
Yeah, I mean, like, I'd snap the hand off just for a fence, as you know, Chris, at this stage, just the fence off our field. But yeah, the grass, like Pingu had said, you hope it's not, Dublin centric, and don't get me wrong, per capita, like, I've gone to pitches in Dublin and there's, Terranure, for instance, Bushy Park, first one comes to my head, there's pitches everywhere. And it's in it's a public park, and it's dangerous more than anything else. But that's what they're there for. They don't have their own grounds and stuff like that. But you're hoping, it's phased out. It's got to start. You mentioned your 20,000. 20,000's not a mental number if if they invest in it now and early, because by the time the 15-year plan comes to fruition, you could be looking at maybe 12,000, 13,000 going to games. But for people to just like, even as us as supporters for Dundalk, like it was mentioned here before, I think we spoke about it probably 6 years ago when we started this podcast, whenever it started. You know, we're talking about a 10,000 seater stadium or 12,000 seater stadium in Oriel Park. We wouldn't fill that. Do you know what I mean? There's no point in pretending we'd fill it. You know, but if you can build it up slowly and build from the bottom up. I remember talking about the Donegal Stadium that they have, Finn Harps, you know, that setup they have for women's soccer and girls soccer and schoolboys.
The Donegal Community Stadium, isn't it?
Community Stadium, yeah. Like that's what you need. You need to start with infrastructure like that. Help people like that out. You know, obviously, you know, Dundalk's a football town. Everybody that comes on this podcast, any guest we have, it is a football town, and our ears should be pricking up now. We should be thinking, right, we should be getting a cut of this. It doesn't have to be a massive amount of money, but stadiums like ours should be first on the go. Like ourselves, I'm trying to think, even you know, like obviously Weavers Park, Richmond Park, although Richmond Park's probably a better look at, overall a better stadium than ours.
Tolka.
Things like that, Tolka Park, you know, these are clubs steeped in history, and it's not just League of Ireland. It goes right down to even startup clubs. You look at someone like Treaty United. You've got Kerry as well. Kerry have put together a great setup down there, considering that they've only come in from last October, September. They have a great little stand there, but you know, you gotta build the soccer up down there because it's GEA country. Like that's GEA, you know, they've got a lot of soccer players in their big catchment areas, you know, massive county. So like things like that. Even when you look at, I think, you know, we famously had the split last year where when Cork got relegated, you were going as far as UCD, was it? As south as we went for a game of football at one stage. So let's you know, you got to get into the infrastructure, the grassroots all around the country to improve the League of Ireland standard. Have more clubs coming in, and you're hoping there that, you know, I know it's a 15-year plan, and you're not just asking for a check for 800 odd million, but we're hoping now that it's going to be used right. It sounds like it's going to be used right. We have heard this before, but like you say, we've never seen that amount of money being earmarked for League of Ireland ever. Like probably in the history of League of Ireland, it wouldn't have even touched the edges, you know, if you added it all together. So you're hoping that you'll really get the benefit out of it. Of course, if we're still doing a podcast, you know, in the next couple of seasons, and we're still talking about it, it's very well a possibility. But you got to build from the bottom up. You know, you got to stop giving. You know, I've seen clubs, the same clubs over and over again all across the country getting benefits, getting money, and other clubs falling short because of paperwork or all this. Like it needs to be spread out, not evenly, but you know, you got to give everybody a crack at it to improve their own facilities, to improve their own club. Without facilities, you know, we know too well at the Vels. You know, we've got basic facilities. This time next year, it won't be. But as long as they're only basic, players aren't attracted to it. And that comes boys football, girls soccer, whatever it is. So you got to build it up from the ground up. It's the same with Dundalk. I mean, we spoke about here, signings might look at Oriel Park. You can see Oriel Park in the background of our thing here. Might want to sign because of the way it looks. You know, so you got to change, you know, people's mindset of it. And
or change the picture.
Like I haven't thoroughly read it like Pingu, but when you glance at it and you see the proposed figure, it's not even the money, to be honest. It's the fact that they've got this plan in place. They finally said, right, we need to sit down here. We need to get all stakeholders involved. Let's have a run at it. You've seen what the GEA are doing. We should be able to do something else. Like, you know, it has to start with, it's everything in life. It starts with conversations. You know, people have talked about this for years. You know, like, oh, we need to invest in this. Like throwing footballs in a lawnmower down in the field, that's not investing in grassroots football. You need to get to the infrastructure of it to attract players. There's no point putting millions in something and there's no players in it. You know, you got to get something to attract players in. And I don't think they'll get the money they're looking for. But I mean, you know, like you said, aim high, get somewhere in the middle, like Pingu said. And I think the sky's the limit. And I think League of Ireland over the last couple of years, especially during COVID, you know, with the League of LOI TV and all that, it's come on another level. And, you know, we've seen it with the European runs of ourselves, you know, the other team up in Dublin. You know, these European runs, and we're getting a European draw in a couple of weeks. You know, we're consistently knocking on the door of European games, and we got to see the benefit of that. And at stadium level, apart from Tallaght, we're not. And you know, that's the main kind of the main issue that League of Ireland clubs have. It's not so much investment. It's stadia. It's that facility driven kind of mindset that we need to change. And you know, we hope more than most that we'll benefit of, because there's no point in slagging off the Dundalk fans for the state of Oriel Park. We know, like, the Dundalk fans know exactly what Oriel Park is like. And, you know, that's something that needs to really be looked at. And, yeah, look, I hope we'll hear more about it over the coming months. But, yeah, look, it's an exciting proposal. There's no doubt about it. I just hope they can pull it off, even close to it.
Yeah, I think as well, just going back to the point, because I see Eamon put in about, you know, kind of agreeing about challenging the politicians on their door. Is you know, we've all seen the arguments, we've all made the arguments, and other podcasts and other supporters have made the arguments about owners, whether it be current owners, previous owners haven't done anything to Oriel Park. I've made comments, and we've done it on this podcast, about supporters getting together to do something. But you look at Shamrock Rovers, and we all make fun of them for it, but their ground is the way it is because the council have backed it. You know, they've had political support, they've had government support to develop a stadium, and that stadium was originally meant to be for that and rugby, I believe, wasn't it? And I think it's kind of
the schools rugby still gets played there.
But for the most part, it's the home of Shamrock Rovers. And really, during all this success that Dundalk have had over the last 10 years, the government, the local government, haven't been put under that kind of pressure, you know. And you just look at this year when Peter Fitzpatrick was able to go out and get the money for Louth Stadium, and which again, I don't want this debate to become anti-GAA, pro-GAA. You know, I don't want it to become sport to sport. He was able to get that fair play to him, you know what I mean? But that's probably where both club and supporters, you know, the owners of the club and supporters have probably failed a little bit, is we haven't pushed the government enough for this. And I think the FEI have kind of seen that too, you know, and again, don't want to go down Dan McDonald's route of debating over the horse racing and the greyhound tax levies, but you know, one of the most gambled upon sports in Ireland is football on weekends. You go in on a Saturday morning to a bookies and people are doing their accumulators, etc. Why shouldn't Irish football be benefiting from that? Why does a different sport benefit from those kind of bets? So I would hope that it would go ahead, but I think the next step for fans is like we should be knocking down the door of Louth County Council and being like, we've had this unprecedented success. There's probably millions of euro has been put into the town of Dundalk through European runs, particularly 2016, but cup wins, you know, league wins, all that investment. What has Dundalk Football Club gotten back from the county council for that? Nothing. They've got nothing back. You know what I mean? So hopefully with the FEI, and I know they're going to rely heavily on the investments going to be from government level. So hopefully now there'll be an opportunity to actually see that. Because that's obviously what's been lacking for us over the last 10 years.
Yeah. And like, Gally, this is, like, we're talking about a perfect storm here as well, because like, when we first started this, we talked about that Brexit had created an opportunity that in the league, it's now going to become a younger league. And we've seen that happen over the past 2 years. We've seen that happen. The younger ages come here. We've seen more players than ever then make the move over to England and go into first team football, because they're staying here till they're 16 or 18 now. They're playing senior football for X amount of years and then going over, like we've seen obviously Evan Ferguson, you know, get his chance and do so well on it. But say Evan O'Kane from your joke earlier was still sitting ahead. Has that also kind of kick-started this conversation that that's where we need to go? That's why we need to invest in the academies. That we've never had to do this before. We've never had to create a football industry like that's in the UK, like that, you know, Pingu's in the US. They're the same. We've never had to do it because we've just relied on other people to do it. Usually UK teams, they'll develop the kids for us and we'll reap the benefits later in our international teams. Yeah. But Brexit has created this thing that we now need to be doing this ourselves, but we can't because we don't have those facilities, or we've only very little of those facilities in this country. And this is the only way we're going to do this massive investment.
Yeah, and you're right. You have to take advantage of it, and that's not to say that there isn't fantastic academies. You know, like straight away you think of, you know, the likes of St. Kevin's, Cherry Orchard, just you know, Dublin based, but they are, you know, they do exactly what I said. Like Shelbourne for girls soccer over the years have been the spot. Anybody that was looking to play kind of, you know, from the east side of the country, you know, that's kind of where you went. And you know, it's not that it isn't there, but no, you got to take advantage of this. You know, like Brexit, you'd mentioned, you got to take advantage of these young players looking to stay in the league. You know, and you're right. We've sent these players off. We've had numerous conversations. We've had Mark Rossiter on. We've had John Flanagan. Anybody talking about this? Players just sent over at 16. Mark Rossiter, I think, went over to Sunderland at 16, 17. You know, and they'll do whatever you can, and we'll get them back a better footballer. You know, when they have to come back, that's kind of the attitude. But why? Let's keep them here. You know, Evan Ferguson is kind of one of those players that he's a unique footballer. I know he went over early. He made it 14, 15 for Bowes. He made his debut, but that's a very rare thing. You know, like, I mean, we've Ryan O'Kane, for instance. Ryan O'Kane would have been shipped off a couple of years ago, probably. You know, if he comes along, if it's 10 years ago, he just goes at 16, 17, somebody signs him. But now he knows, he's seen other players, he knows himself, right? This is
he's
what
going to
do.
He's going to get European football.
Exactly. And through circumstances, with Brexit, he's able to play here. He's playing a lot more minutes than he would over in England. Mm-hmm. And somewhere down the line, somebody's going to come looking for him, and he'd be a much better footballer for us. And that's true of anybody. We've seen, I can't remember his first name, Dean Grant. Is it Dean Grant from Bowes? Is it Dean? I can't think of his name. At Huddersfield. Now, it hasn't really worked out for him, but another player that went over young, he went over very young. But now, if he was here now, he'd be getting so much more benefit out of playing week in, week out the league. And the league and the league itself and the FA need to take advantage of that option that we have now of, well, you're not going anywhere, you're staying here, and let's invest in what we can do, because, like Pingu said, the standard of the league has gone up. The European run that we've had, everything should be going up. The only thing that's not going up is the facilities, and that's what needs to be invested in. Like, you know, we're blue in the face saying it. I think every fan in the country knows what it's like. But, you know, I agree with your point. You've got an advantage here to keep the best young talent in the country, both male and female. Like, you see the Women's National League take off over the last couple of seasons as well with the introduction of the streaming service. So, you know, usually the best of the best goes over, and then they're staying here. Some of the internationals, you know, you look at Chloe Mustaki, up until last year was playing here. You know, I know she's out of Bristol City, but these are all players that played in the Women's National League. You've Anya Gorman as well, still a player. Megan Campbell would have played in the league. Now she's over at Liverpool. Like, these players have gone over older than they would have a couple of years ago. And that's what investment comes with. And that's what we're going to see the benefit of as fans, paying 20-odd euro into a game. We're going to see the best of the best before they go over as, you know, fully fledged, you know, proper, you know, professional footballers ready to go, not kind of having to sit on the bench in the under 21s or the reserves. And that all investment. Look, like you say, it might be 10, 12 years before we see anything of it. But it's better than nothing, and it'll be a slow progression. But that's what that investment should be covering. Mm-hmm. And there's nothing like we're blue in the face saying it. You know, like, we've seen this. Proper fans know, like, you know, the scouts are great coming over, picking the best. They don't have that option anymore. Let's keep them here. You know, build a home for them here. Proper academy, proper facilities, professional football. You know, they're on to a winner if they just hit this right.
Yeah. Pingu, I know you got to go, and we're going to be wrapping up here ourselves very shortly. I'm just thinking from yourself, in the US, you know, you've seen a football industry that's got investment and that's got good facilities, and it's proven that, you know, that can create a bed of talent very, very quickly, can't it?
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, we just had one of the assistant managers. He's actually gone in as the interim manager for the men's national team out here. Came in and done a talk with the academy a couple of weeks ago, and he talked through what US is doing in terms of their talent identification. And it's, you know, I was chatting to an English lad that I work with, and he reckons within the next 10, 15 years, like, the US aren't going to be a million miles away from, you know, World Cup quarterfinals, semi-finals, etc. You know, with the model they're going off, and the infrastructure here is obviously a lot bigger, and the opportunities are a lot wider that can be done here in the US in comparison to back home. But that doesn't mean that Ireland's a footballing country. You know, the difference between there and here is people go out and actually play the game back home. People here, they pay to play the game. So you have a lot more naturally gifted players, but putting them now in an environment of proper grassroots facilities and proper academy facilities and having that pathway can only be a good thing to develop. And as you said, the next Evan Ferguson, and let's keep churning those players out, you know. And I think we're seeing that to an extent with the underage setup, but how good could our underage be with proper facilities, with those proper setups and proper structures in place? So fingers crossed it'll come to be. We'll have to wait and see over the next few weeks. I'm sure it's going to be tightly debated in government as well about what they're gonna give. But the FEI have put down a massive mark of intent, and we can talk about previous regimes in the FEI till we're blue in the face in terms of money, but this is intent that, from what I can see, for the betterment of the game, to benefit everyone involved in the game back home. And it's the first time probably ever we've seen that from the FEI. So hopefully it'll, at least hopefully a good chunk of what they're looking for will come to fruition. Yeah.
Perfect. I think that seems like a good way to now. I'll see you at the next 2-1 victory.
Yeah, I'll be back on in Julember. Nah, hopefully I'll be able to see you a little bit more often, lads. But good to be back. Nice to be back on a win. Let you lads handle the losses, and sure, look, I'll see you when I see you.
The Yank is back.
Gally, it was great to connect with you. Great to agree with you on so much. I think I agreed with you more tonight than I have in the previous 2 years. But no, cheers, lads. Enjoyed that.
Cheers, mate. Thanks, pal. Gally, I suppose just a final point. Yesterday we caught up with Orla Crilly from the 1903 group. Tomorrow, it's funny, we're talking about the strategic plan, throwing hundreds of millions at it. Yet there's the basic stuff probably not being done in Oriel Park to get us anywhere near that sort of level. And the fact that we were there the night that she was elected, and she said she wanted to make an impact on the club for supporters. At least she's getting the old brushes and the paints out, getting the important things. And Gally, Finger was saying, should I say, watching on TV, you see Oriel Park, and you're like, Jesus, just like paint on the walls around the pitch or something would go a long way. Like, that's going to get done now by a group of volunteers, hopefully tomorrow. Like, that's great to see, but it's a shame that it has to be done at the same time. But if it's not done, how does that look?
Yeah, it's basic stuff, isn't it? Like, we're talking about the hundreds of millions, and like, unfortunately, I can't help tomorrow. Saturday is just with the football and different stuff. It's just a nightmare. But yeah, it's basic stuff. It brings you right back down to earth, and it's another reason, another strenuous reason why facilities are needed. Like, the ironic thing is, there's no problem. Fans will paint, no problem, but it's what they're painting. Do you know what I mean? Like, if it was a cracking stadium, you get a chance to go up on it. There's no football on, you get the stadium to yourself. You can walk in Oriel Park, like, it's Oriel Park, I couldn't back it more what they're trying to do. They're doing, like, it starts with simple stuff, but people a lot of supporters clubs, or even down to try and complicate things and get we need to have a gig, or we need to have something that costs money. This doesn't cost money. Like, get up. It's a bit of time you're given. If there's anybody about hour and a half is all they're looking for, as far as I know. But
between 10 and 3 tomorrow. So if anyone's around, feel free to just pop up, or look, we have put details out there for the WhatsApp group or the email address, just to let them know you're coming ahead.
Yeah, and it's a simple way to do your bit. It's so simple, get involved in the supporters club. Become a member if you're not already as well. But just get involved, and it's a great community thing. It's a social thing as well. Like, the sun's going to be splitting trees, hopefully. Bit of a social event as well. Get out during the day for something. But yeah, look, they're doing. I'm hoping it goes well for them, and future events as well. I know that they're talking about different stuff coming down the line, and spoke to Frank and that. But it brings it back down to earth. It's the basic stuff that's needed. And that's we kind of overlook just simplistic things for the club and for the stadium. And we can't give out them, and people say, oh, well, the wall's this, or there's this and there's that. Well, now let's go and fix it. I think Darren Meehan had a thing about the stand. It was like rubbish at the very start of the season. Just the left hand side of the stand was just terrible looking, and we sorted within a couple of days, and that's what it takes. It's just that little bit, and you've done your bit for the club, and you can enjoy the football knowing you've done something. And yeah, it's brilliant what Orla and the group are trying to do. Fantastic.
Yeah, I think the other initiative, see, the membership cards is changing to a small plastic one, and they've roped in, I think it's around 60 businesses already, where you can potentially get a discount for doing so. For the €24 membership fee, you're getting plenty bang back for your buck. And I said it reminded me straight away of Shop Dundalk back in the day, and that brought all the community towards Oriel Park, and that seems to be the kind of route they're going down again. That's a great thing, because if you want to succeed in anything up in Oriel Park, you have to be embedded in the community to make that work. Yeah, and if that's what you do, that's great.
Yeah, and again, it's a simple idea, because you're benefiting off a simple membership. The business that's helping you out is benefiting off possibly new customers. You might go into a shop you've never been in. It's simple stuff. It really is, and it's just that community feel to it. It absolutely, It's not exactly, but it's Shop Dundalk is the first thing I think. That was a massive event. That was. You can still see stickers up. I think Alan Gray might still have a sticker up in the jewelers. It's still there. You can still see the sign. It's on a jersey I have up the stairs. It's still. You still see it all over town, and it's just a great thing to have. And why not? It's that community feel again. Like, as everybody says, and Dundalk's a football town, and the businesses benefit off it on a, whether it be a European run, if there's, away fans in town, and everybody get to see a little bit of chunk of it all, this investment that's coming down the line. And why not give back to businesses, get a little bit of discount, and everybody wins. And again, you're just adding that little bit of community. You might have a business in town that might not go to Oriel Park, and now they might, and little things like that.
Like she's inviting different businesses up for networking during matches and stuff like that. People who've never been to Oriel Park before. I think that's brilliant as well. Even having the barometer that's going to be at the front of Oriel Park, where the fundraising money is going and how much is going into it. They're just a little. People just need a visual sometimes, just to see, to visualize a goal and what can happen. Whether that ends up being, just improved toilet facilities or some sort of a stand maybe in the town end or something like that. Like that's just, we need something to be going forward for. Then if this bigger plan comes to fruition, that should be, it's like having the foundations in and then wanting to build the rest of your house. You can't build a house before any of these foundations are done. So, both of them has to happen.
How slowly, they'll be surprised how quickly that'll snowball. It's just one little thing after another. And then before you know it, then, you've got a gantry at the town end for the town end podcast that's live after matches. And we're laughing.
That'd suit me even handy.
Yeah, but it's just it's just little things. You got to start small, and there's no one going mad big on it. And they're doing the right thing. And people might say, "Oh, you're going a little bit backwards," like painting. But that's where it has to start. It's a brand new committee. It's a brand new setup. Nobody's done it for a while. So start small and work your way gradually up. And that, like you said, that visual, it'll remind people every time. God, that visual, and even if it's probably better than it's not moving up. Then it'll remind people, right, we got to get this moving, put more money in the pot. Let's get the vote. Brilliant. Yeah. It's a brilliant idea.
Yeah, look, and look, there are plenty of ideas. We encourage anyone and everyone to join the 1903 as well. It's got mural ideas planned then as well. Things like that is a real good idea. And I know there was talk of a town planners meeting this week up in Oriel Park as well. Let's hope there's something good to possibly come out of that now, because I feel, like Pingu mentioned, and Eamon Collins in the comment, now is the time we have to have everything in place now. That as soon as this money's available, we can draw it down. That's the main thing. Look, Pingu's back. We're back into the hour and a half when he pods again.
Jesus.
Whoever the hell that happened. I think we leave it at that for tonight. Thanks as always to Tony's Pizzeria for a match competition pizza. And thanks to Claire Fit for our jerseys, and in particular the new one for this year. Thanks to Donald Green and Dundalk Village as our main sponsor of the podcast too. Thanks Gali and Pingu for popping on, for all their comments and everything else. Look, at the time we've come to the international break, it's great to come back on 2 wins. It's not something that happens all the time for us. The way this season was going, so it's nice to have that. We can go and enjoy the international break, and until then, Gary, I'll see everybody after the break.